What's up everyone, Mortal Kombat just released in theaters and on HBO Max, so let's review it. Real quick, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought of the movie. And this is going to be a spoiler review for the movie, so if you haven't watched the movie yet, make sure you've seen the movie before you watch this review. Anyway, let's get into it. So the plot for this movie is fairly straightforward. It's kind of the classic Mortal Kombat kind of tournament style plot, even though it's not really a tournament in this movie. But you know, Shang Tsung, he's the bad guy in this movie, and he's got all his little henchmen. Essentially, if they win like 10 tournaments in a row, he's going to be able to enslave Earth. And then there's the Immortals, I believe they're called, something like that. The group of characters we're following in the movie, they have to stop him, and that's really the plot of the movie, and it obviously evolves from there. So the main characters this movie follows, I think they were called like the Immortals or something similar to that. It's Cole Young, who's like this new kind of made-up character for this movie. I didn't realize he was made up when watching the movie, but afterwards I found out that he was a made-up character, completely made up for this movie, which is actually pretty cool. I don't mind that at all, that they made up one character, as long as they only do it for one character. You know, I want most of the video game characters to be featured in this movie. Alright, so it was him, Sonya Blade, who's in this one. Obviously, she's in the other two classic ones, Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Then Jax is also in here. He was definitely his best portrayal and was in this one. He wasn't very good in Annihilation. And then Kano was the other like immortal guy that was with him. And then later on for the heroes, we meet Liu Kang, Raiden, Kung Lao, who I was really excited to see in this movie. I always love his blade hat, so I was really excited to see him in this movie. As well as Scorpion is in the movie as well. And the villains we get to see in this movie, there's a lot of different villains in here. Obviously, Shang Tsung's in here. He doesn't really do anything, but he's in this movie. Sub-Zero is kind of the main villain in this movie, as well as Goro and Mileena. And there's a few others in there, but that's pretty much the heroes and villains in this movie. I was pleasantly pleased with all the people they brought in. Definitely, I'm excited for the sequel, where they're definitely going to bring in more people. You know, like Johnny Cage is pretty much confirmed to be in it, so I'm pretty excited for that. Anyway, so that's like pretty much the plot of the movie and the characters, so let's get into the review. So overall, I actually liked this movie quite a bit. You know, it wasn't like amazing, but I had a really good time watching it, and overall, it's really entertaining. Like let's be clear, this movie does have issues, which I shall get into in a little bit, but this movie completely delivered on everything it promised for me. This movie is filled with that Mortal Kombat gore, and I love it. That was definitely the thing I was most looking forward to in this movie. Once you knew it was R-rated, you knew it had to be in here, and it is. It's featured very prominently in here. I'm really happy about that. Like in the opening scene alone, where it's kind of like Scorpion versus Sub-Zero fighting, you get plenty of it, and that's just a teaser for what the movie gives you in terms of, you know, the gore and the violence that Mortal Kombat can bring. And throughout the movie, it just gets better and better. The video game, or at least the modern ones that I have played, are super gory, and you know, I love it. You know, everyone's, you know, just sat back and done the like fatality mode in the video games and just done all the fatalities over and over again on Sub-Zero. And so I was really happy this movie incorporated it into the movie, and incorporated it very well. And at times, even like the fatalities they did in the movie felt just like the video games. Like the one Kung Lao kill on that weird like flying lady, where he put his hat in the ground, it was like spinning like a saw blade and cut her in half. That was just amazing. I mean, I love stuff like that. It's awesome to see. I really appreciate that this movie didn't hold back. It didn't seem like it was. I mean, it was really like a hard R. There's swearing, which wasn't necessary, I guess, but there was a lot of swearing in here, and then the violence was just really over the top, and that's honestly what I expected and what I wanted. I was really glad this movie delivered on that. And even the fights in this movie are awesome as well. I mean, you know, gore aside, the gore is, you know, makes it really entertaining, but like just the choreographed fights were really good, and that really goes a long way. Some of the fights were more or less choreographed well and, you know, done really well, but overall, just as a whole, the fights are really good. Especially, I really liked the Sub-Zero fight at the end, and they did a really good job at like evolving the fights and keeping them moving. Especially like the longer ones, like the Sub-Zero one at the end, they just kept like incorporating different things, and I love that about it. And the fights in this movie also delivered, and that's just what these Mortal Kombat movies can be. And I'm so glad that at least for this one, it definitely delivered on everything I want from a Mortal Kombat movie. And much of this movie was fan service, and honestly, that's all right by me. Gory fights and this epic, you know, tournament style fighting, fatalities, and the characters literally saying fatality when they kill someone. The background arcade music, and just overall the arcade music randomly being featured in there throughout the entire movie. Just this is filled with, honestly, just what I guess I would call it fan service, but it's filled with it, and it just, as a Mortal Kombat fan, I love the video games, and this movie definitely delivers. If you're not familiar with the video game or the 1995 movie, I could understand maybe why you wouldn't like this movie, but for me, this just delivered on everything I wanted. But I wanted to look at some of the issues in this movie, because there is a number of issues that kind of hold this movie back for me. First being the characters. I thought the characters were kind of bland. Not every character was bland. Some characters I liked in this movie were Scorpion and Sub-Zero. I really liked their arc. I really like that, really the two most iconic Mortal Kombat characters got a movie where they were prominently featured as the two main guys, and it seems like in the sequels they won't be in there. So it's nice that they did get their movie in there, and they we got an epic fight between them, and they really did the Scorpion Sub-Zero thing. I also like Kano in here. He was pretty funny. He was really the funniest character in the movie, and I liked his kind of humor and stuff. I also liked Kang Lao with the spinny hat. I love Kang Lao, and I'm really glad he was in this one. But particularly the characters in this movie I didn't like would be Cole Young, who's obviously the new guy, Sonya Blade, and Jax. Really the main three kind of protagonists in the movie. I thought they were all a little bland, and I just didn't find myself caring about them, and nothing really stood out for me about them. They were pretty lame, honestly. They didn't really do much, and while it's a Mortal Kombat movie, and you don't necessarily have to care about the characters, I think the 1995 Mortal Kombat did a good job at just having likable characters. I didn't even really care about the characters in this movie, because in the original they're likable. In this one, they're very bland to me. Another very random complaint. I thought Cole Young's suit was pretty lame. He kind of had this gold chainmail armor kind of looking thing. Half the movie I actually thought Cole Young was going to become Scorpion, until I realized that Cole Young was going to be his own character, and then Scorpion shows up later, and he shows up and has this fight with Sub-Zero, so he's kind of his own guy. But I thought his suit was lame. Overall, I didn't hate the characters. I don't think they did anything to make this movie better. Another issue I thought with this movie was I thought it was kind of slow at times, kind of a random issue, but I'm specifically referring to a point in the movie where they get to Raiden's temple after the little opening. They get to Raiden's temple, and once they get there, I thought this movie dragged quite a bit, kind of as them kind of finding their powers. It was kind of just them talking for a while, but that really goes in part to the characters just weren't interesting. So when you have kind of just character development happening, but you don't care about the characters, it doesn't really go well. Those two don't really go well together. So that kind of made the movie a little bland at that point in the movie. But it does pick up at the end, and the end is just nonstop, gore tournament style fighting type stuff that I absolutely love. But just around the middle, kind of early final act area, it kind of dragged a little. And then my last kind of complaint for this movie is kind of a big one towards the end. I was just disappointed by the ending. I don't like the fact that it focused on setting up a sequel. And while I don't have a problem with movies, planting the seeds for a sequel and blatantly and setting up a sequel, but don't do it blatantly, because the main villain in this movie is Shang Tsung. So when you're expecting him to get killed or get in a fight with the main characters at the end of the movie, when that doesn't happen, he's just it sets up that he's gonna be the villain in the next one, and then the next one's when he's gonna get killed or whatever. I don't like that. If this movie, I think, should have maybe focused more on Sub-Zero as kind of the main villain, while Shang Tsung's kind of the background guy, or he just comes in at the end to kind of reveal himself as the main bad guy. That probably would have worked better, in my opinion. I don't think Shang Tsung should have been, if he's not going to be the main villain in this movie, then he shouldn't be featured as prominently as the main villain. So that's just the issue there. I don't have a problem with it setting up a sequel. Just don't so blatantly do it when you're completely cutting off this movie's story. Because for me, that left a bad taste in my mouth right there at the end. It just kind of ruined it a little bit. Especially because Shang Tsung was really annoying in the movie, and he's not going to get his. So I'm going to have to wait till the sequel. Though I am really excited for the sequel, especially seeing Johnny Cage come back. That's definitely going to be really cool. So at the end of the day, I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. Mortal Kombat remains to be one of the most successful video game to movie franchises, and that's in part to just the style of the movie. Where you look at the Mortal Kombat 1995, I think Mortal Kombat 1995 perfectly set up the style of movie that works so well for that movie, where they translated the video game very well into the movie, and that worked. So this movie really just followed that template, and it succeeded there. So it wasn't too difficult, because all they had to do was follow this template, but it definitely worked, and I was glad about that. So overall, this movie it delivered on everything I wanted it to, and that's really all I needed. Even if it had a few issues, I'm able to overlook them, because it was just it was pure fun to me. Just the Mortal Kombat gore and violence and, tournament style fighting. It was that stuff what I wanted, and it delivered on that. So that's really all that matters, even if there is, a few issues. So I'm going to give Mortal Kombat a 76% and a B. Overall, very entertaining, and I really wasn't disappointed at all by this one. And that will do it for my review of Mortal Kombat. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and tell me what you thought about the movie down below in the comments. And thanks for watching, and have a great day.